What's up, guys? Mason the Brock Henderson here. This is Bones, Season 11, Episode 14, The Last Shot at a Second Chance. This one was better. Um, Not saying much for this show, because in my opinion, it's just gone really, really downhill in Season 11. But there were some better parts about this episode. One, you've got a slightly better case. It wasn't as completely stupid as it normally is. Some of these have just been like so just stupid that I actually remember it because of how stupid it is. This one was actually just average. I hardly remember. I remember what it was about, sort of, because I just watched it. But to be honest, I don't really remember the case that well. I just remember it involved a halfway house. It involved people who were in prison and now are not. And then this girl had a baby, and then there was another girl involved, and then the guy who was, I guess, in charge of the halfway house, I think, is the one that was the killer. I don't know. Either way, it wasn't so stupid that I remember it because of how stupid it was. It was just average, so I don't really remember it. It was kind of forgettable. But the stuff going on the outside of the case is where things took a bit of a turn in this episode. One, it started off, I thought, very interestingly, with you've got Brennan now having to sit before this board of FBI people because she punched the guy last week, the Meninist guy. And I thought that would be interesting to do, to have her maybe not be able to work with the FBI. I don't know. I don't know how you would do it. Maybe the Jeffersonians still could, but she couldn't be involved, or something along those lines, where she would have to do it secretly, or she might be getting in trouble for something. Something along those lines. But ultimately, they just sort of write it off. They'd say she's on a 6-month probation with Booth looking over her, like being in charge of her or something along those lines. I don't know. They just sort of threw it off as a joke. Like everything, all the intensity that they had sort of at the beginning of this episode was just like, oh, she could not be working with the FBI anymore. At the end, they were just sort of making a joke about it. Like, oh, yeah, we'll take it. She's like, no, we won't. He's like, yeah, we will. We're good. We're good. I'm like, what happened to the drama in this? There's no drama anymore. Now they're just joking about it. The stuff with Aubrey and Jessica is pretty good. I like Aubrey a lot. Like he's probably my favorite character for the past 2 seasons. That's how bad it's been. Like really bad. Anyway, but he was a new character brought in last season. They grew his character pretty well. He's always got pretty good jokes. He makes, in this one he makes a Star Wars reference. He makes a Wile E. Coyote reference. His jokes are probably the only ones I really laugh at. But he's been in sort of a kind of but not really relationship with Jessica, the redhead that just says whatever's on her mind and doesn't. It's pretty much like the opposite of Dr. Brennan. But they start off on kind of a date in this, and then they kind of fail at ending the date. It was actually pretty funny how things just completely go wrong. Like they go in for a kiss and then headbutt into his nose, and then they get a call that there's a body that needs to be looked at, and then all of a sudden a car splashes water on them. I'm like, that sucks. It was just one thing after another. So it is something that did make me laugh, and this show's not done that well recently. They haven't done funny stuff well. But on top of that, you've also got the end of this episode, which was they are on a date again, and then they're just like, yeah, well, maybe we'll see how things go. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, a car comes around the corner, doesn't see Jessica, Aubrey pulls her out of the way, and then that's when they kiss. I'm like, what? You started off so well, and then you end it like that? Could you get any more cheesy and forced? Really? If it had been somebody who was trying to kill her or something like that, that would have been crazy. But this was just, she walks out in the middle of the road, doesn't really pay attention, nearly gets hit. And then on top of that, you've actually got the one that starts off, the storyline that starts off bad and ends good, so opposite the other two storylines. Hodgins is still acting like an idiot at the beginning of this episode. Uh, Angela's just, she's kind of putting up with it. She still loves him, still wants to try to make things work, but she's putting up with what a jerk he's being right now. At one point, I was... this was actually very clever, which the show has not done well recently, but she was meeting with Sebastian, and I thought to myself, oh, they brought him back. They're going to try to put them together now, aren't they? Like, it's going to be kind of a cheat thing for her, where she's going to have the opportunity and she's going to have to decide, do I take it or do I not? And so he's... Excuse you. Anyway, she's meeting with Sebastian in the Jeffersonian to show him some of her work. And he's just like, can we meet somewhere maybe a bit more private? And at first I'm just like, really? And then she mentions Cam and the fact that Cam's there. I'm just like, oh, okay. So maybe they're not going to do this. And then she heads to his apartment and he starts, making these associations with how he sees beauty and stuff like that. And I'm just like, oh, crap. And then they start making out and then they start taking off their clothes. And I'm like, ugh. Really? She's not even going to question it? Like, you're not even going to be smart about it? And then all of a sudden you hear, Angela. I'm like, oh, it's a dream! Okay. And sure enough, she's having a sex dream about Sebastian at work. Says his name, in fact, with Hodgins nearby. I don't know. Maybe it's not as clever as I'm thinking it is, but compared to some of the other stuff that the show's had, it was pretty clever. They wouldn't normally do stuff like that. They normally would just actually have her going to his apartment and then giving in without even questioning her motives or anything like that. So at least this time, it was a bit better handled. And then on top of that, you've got Hodgins at the end of this whole episode giving her these papers that gives her everything, all of his money, all of his stuff. He's like, look, I'm miserable and I'm making you miserable because of it. I can see that. I don't want to do this anymore. And so part of me was like, okay, he understands that he's being an idiot through all of this, but at the same time, he's still being an idiot by suggesting they get a divorce. That's not what Angela wants. And sure enough, she calls him out on it. She's like, that's not a solution, that's a coward's way out. And then gives him the folder back and says, I'll see you at home. And ultimately it ends with, he shows up at home, she's crying in bed, and he rolls up and holds her hand. So hopefully that storyline's done. Maybe they're just going to start, for the next few episodes, it's going to be them working on it. Hodgins working on maybe changing his attitude a little bit. I don't know. I really, really hope that's the end of the storyline for jerky Hodgins. Because, God, I couldn't take any more of that. Like, even the little bit in this episode was just, I wanted to go punch someone. It was bad. The very first episode where they had all of this stuff, I think it was either the first episode for the second half or the second, but he was just being a jerk to everybody. I was almost done with his character right then. So, anyway, all in all, better episode, still not good enough, still got a lot of work to do, still a lot of very, very, very cheesy moments, and the cases have got to get better. The serial killer from last week could be interesting if they continued on that vein for a little bit, but these one and done cases are really boring or stupid. They need to pick it up. They need to get smarter cases. They need to get smarter case writers involved. Something along those lines. So those are my thoughts on this episode. Let me know what you thought down in the comments below. If there's anything I didn't talk about that you want to discuss, let me know. Leave a like and subscribe for more bones, and I will see you at the next review. Peace out.